Hey guys, today we're looking at the basic needs of plants and animals. Okay, and our objective is you'll brainstorm how the destruction of a habitat would affect the ability of its organisms to meet four basic needs. So we're going to start out, we're going to look at plants and animals. We got an animal here, we got an orangutan. Over here we've got a deciduous tree. That's a type of plant. But let's take a look first at what a habitat is. Habitat is the home in which an organism lives. Every single living thing, we're all organisms, and we all have a habitat, okay? Even as humans, we have a habitat. Your pets have habitats. Plants have habitats. Trees have habitats, okay? So, the home in which an organism lives. Over here, for our animal, we've got an orangutan. You can tell his habitat is in the forest. Well, he's in a specific forest, a rainforest. Habitat would be the rainforest. Rainforest provides food, shelter, air, and water. And if these, in the rainforest, if the trees were to be destroyed somehow, like if it stopped raining, well, guess what would happen? If it stopped raining, the trees would die. And then without trees and plants, the orangutans wouldn't survive because they wouldn't have any oxygen. All right? So that's why it's necessary for them to have trees in their environment, their habitat. Plant habitats. Plant habitats, these are deciduous trees that lose their leaves annually. That's what a deciduous tree is. Plants like deciduous trees are different from animals because guess what? They can make their own food through a process called photosynthesis. So, similar to animals, all plants, they've got to have food. They can make their own food using nutrients from the soil, water, and the sun. Plants also need air and water and shelter and a place to grow safely. A temperate forest is full of deciduous trees. Plants like these deciduous trees are different from animals because they're capable of making their own food. And again, that's called photosynthesis, by which plants use sunlight to make their own energy from carbon dioxide and water. What do you think might happen to deciduous trees in a temperate forest if the sun stopped shining? Tell you what would happen. Without sunlight, the deciduous trees, they couldn't survive because they wouldn't be able to make their own food. This would also affect the animals that they rely on. This would also affect the animals that rely on these plants for survival. So to sum everything up, a habitat is the home in which an organism lives. The orangutan lives in a rainforest. And the rainforest gives them everything they need to survive. They have food and shelter and water and air. And without trees and plants, the orangutans wouldn't survive because the trees and plants is what gives them the air to breathe. Also, let's take a look at plant habitats. These are deciduous trees. And remember, deciduous trees are trees that lose their leaves annually. Plants like deciduous trees are different from animals because they can make their own food through photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is just a process by which plants use sunlight to make their own energy from carbon dioxide and water. So, I want you to think about what would happen to deciduous trees in a temperate forest if the sun stopped shining. What would happen to them? They would die. Without sunlight, the deciduous trees couldn't survive because they wouldn't be able to make food because that's part of the photosynthesis process, okay? You're going to be asked about this. You got to watch a video right after this, and then there's a read it section. Remember, read its are not required. It's just something that's there to give you some extra support if you need it, okay? But you need to be able to answer in the show it section. What do you need to stay alive? What does your pet need? And what do plants need?